Chuck Berry's sound engineer had secret talent. When Chuck found out, he changed that kid's life forever. This is the incredible true story of how a shy 22-year-old working behind the mixing board was unconsciously humming perfect harmonies during soundcheck, and how Chuck Berry's recognition of that hidden gift transformed a struggling sound technician into one of the most successful record producers in music history. It was September 14, 1967, at Abbey Road Studios in London. Chuck Berry was recording what would become some of his most sophisticated material, working with British engineers and session musicians who brought a different energy to his classic American rock and roll sound. The sessions were going well, but Chuck was a perfectionist who demanded multiple takes and precise sound quality for every track. Working the mixing board was Tommy Williams, a 22-year-old sound engineer from Liverpool who had started at Abbey Road just 18 months earlier. Tommy was one of those invisible people who made the music industry work. Tommy had grown up in a working-class family where music was a luxury they couldn't afford. He'd never had piano lessons or guitar instruction, never been in a school band, never had the opportunity to develop his musical abilities in any formal way. But he'd always loved music, and when he managed to land the junior sound engineer position at Abbey Road, he felt like he'd won the lottery. For Tommy, working with someone like Chuck Berry was both thrilling and intimidating. This was the man who had written Johnny B. Good and Roll Over Beethoven, songs that had defined rock and roll. Tommy approached each session with the reverence of someone who understood he was in the presence of musical royalty. Chuck Berry, meanwhile, was impressed with the professionalism and technical skill of the Abbey Road staff. The British engineers understood sound in ways that enhanced his music without overwhelming it, and the studio's equipment was among the best in the world. But what Chuck Berry didn't know was that Tommy Williams possessed a musical gift that even Tommy himself didn't fully understand. The discovery happened during what should have been a routine soundcheck for Memphis, Tennessee. Chuck was on the studio floor with his guitar running through the song while Tommy adjusted levels behind the mixing board. It was late in the afternoon, and they'd been working for 6 hours straight. Chuck was tired, Tommy was focused on his technical duties, and the session had settled into the comfortable rhythm of professionals doing their jobs. Chuck began playing the familiar opening chords of Memphis, Tennessee, his guitar filling the studio with that distinctive Chuck Berry sound. As he started singing the first verse, Tommy, completely unconscious of what he was doing, began humming along with the melody. But Tommy wasn't just humming the main vocal line. Without even realizing it, he was creating a perfect harmony part, his voice finding notes that complemented Chuck's singing in ways that made the song sound fuller, richer, more complete. Chuck Berry continued singing, but part of his attention was drawn to something he was hearing in his headphones. There was a harmony line that wasn't supposed to be there, a secondary vocal that was making his voice sound better than it had ever sounded in the studio. Chuck finished the first verse and stopped playing, but Tommy, lost in the music and unaware that Chuck had stopped, continued humming the harmony line for a few more bars before catching himself and falling silent. Chuck Berry removed his headphones and looked toward the mixing booth, where Tommy was sitting behind the board, looking embarrassed at having been caught making noise during what was supposed to be a professional recording session. "Tommy," Chuck called out, his voice carrying clearly through the studio's communication system. "Come out here for a minute." Tommy's heart sank. He was certain he was about to be fired for unprofessional behavior. "You didn't hum along during recording sessions, especially not when you were working with legends like Chuck Berry." Tommy walked slowly onto the studio floor, preparing to apologize and probably pack his things. "What were you just doing?" Chuck asked. But his tone wasn't angry. If anything, he sounded curious, intrigued. "I'm sorry, Mr. Berry," Tommy said, his Liverpool accent thick with nervousness. "I didn't mean to make noise during the take. It won't happen again." No, Chuck said, waving away the apology. "I'm not upset. I want to know what you were humming, that harmony line you were singing." Tommy looked confused. I wasn't really singing anything, sir. Just I don't know. Sometimes I hum along without thinking about it. Chuck Berry's eyes lit up with recognition. This kid had been creating perfect harmony lines unconsciously, which meant his musical instincts were so developed that he could hear chord progressions and melodic relationships without any formal training. "Tommy, do you play any instruments?" Chuck asked. "No, sir. Never had lessons or anything like that. I've always loved music, but my family couldn't afford." "Never mind that," Chuck interrupted gently. "I want you to try something. I'm going to play Memphis, Tennessee again, and I want you to sing whatever feels natural to you. Don't think about it. Don't try to get it right. Just sing whatever you hear in your head." Tommy was terrified. He was being asked to sing by Chuck Berry, one of the greatest performers in rock and roll history, and Tommy had never considered himself a singer. But Chuck's expression was encouraging, not judgmental, so Tommy nodded nervously. Chuck began playing Memphis, Tennessee again, and this time he nodded at Tommy to join in. Tommy started tentatively, his voice barely audible, but as Chuck continued playing, Tommy's confidence grew. His voice found the harmony line naturally, instinctively, creating a musical conversation with Chuck's lead vocal that was both sophisticated and emotionally moving. When the song ended, Chuck Berry was staring at Tommy with an expression of amazement. "Tommy," Chuck said slowly, "do you realize what you just did?" Tommy shook his head, still not understanding the significance of what had happened. "You just sang a perfect harmony line to a song you've never practiced, never studied, never even heard arranged for multiple voices. You found notes that professional backup singers would need sheet music to figure out. That's not something you learn, that's something you're born with." Tommy was stunned. He had always known he loved music, but he'd never thought he had any real talent. The idea that he possessed something special, something that could be developed and used professionally, had never occurred to him. "Mr. Berry, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything yet," Chuck replied with a smile. "Let me ask you something else. When you hear a song on the radio, do you ever hear parts that aren't there? Instruments or voices that could make the song better?" Tommy's eyes widened. "All the time. I'm always thinking about what I would add, but I figured everyone did that." Chuck Berry laughed, a sound full of delight and discovery. "No, Tommy, everyone doesn't do that. What you're describing is called musical arrangement, and it's one of the most valuable skills in the music industry. Most people spend years studying to develop what you seem to do naturally." Chuck Berry made a decision that would change Tommy Williams' life forever. "Tommy, I want you to sing backup vocals on this song. Not as the sound engineer, as a performer. We're going to record your harmony part and make it part of the official track." Tommy was overwhelmed. "But sir, I'm just the sound engineer. I don't know how to be a singer." "You just proved you know exactly how to be a singer," Chuck said firmly. "The question is whether you want to learn how to be a professional one." What followed was an impromptu masterclass in vocal performance and studio recording. Chuck Berry spent the next 2 hours working with Tommy, teaching him how to project his voice, how to use the studio microphone effectively, how to blend his harmony with the lead vocal without overwhelming it. But more than technical instruction, Chuck taught Tommy about confidence and artistic vision. He helped Tommy understand that his musical instincts were valuable, that his ability to hear arrangements and harmonies was a gift that could take him far beyond the mixing board. The recording session that day produced not just a great version of Memphis, Tennessee, with Tommy's harmony vocals, but also the beginning of a new career path that Tommy had never imagined possible. Chuck Berry was so impressed with Tommy's natural ability that he invited him to work on the entire album, not just as sound engineer, but as a vocal arranger and backup singer. Tommy's harmonies appeared on several tracks, and his suggestions for instrumental arrangements were incorporated into the final recordings. But Chuck Berry didn't stop there. He introduced Tommy to other musicians and producers, recommending him for projects that needed someone with his unique combination of technical skill and natural musical instincts. Within 6 months, Tommy Williams was working as a freelance producer and arranger, using his Abbey Road engineering background combined with his newly discovered vocal and arrangement talents. His first major success came when he produced a series of harmony-heavy tracks for a British folk rock band that became surprise hits across Europe. The success led to more opportunities. Tommy's ability to hear arrangements that others missed, combined with his technical understanding of studio recording, made him one of the most sought-after producers in London. He worked with established acts who wanted to expand their sound and new artists who needed someone to help them find their musical identity. By 1970, Tommy had produced 3 albums that reached the top 10 in the UK, and his reputation was growing internationally. Music industry professionals began seeking him out specifically for his arrangement skills and his ability to develop vocal harmonies that elevated songs from good to extraordinary. Throughout his rising career, Tommy never forgot the debt he owed to Chuck Berry. In interviews, he always credited Chuck with recognizing his potential and giving him the encouragement and opportunity to develop it. "Chuck Berry didn't just give me a chance," Tommy said in a 1975 interview with Rolling Stone magazine. "He gave me permission to believe in myself. I had no idea I had any musical ability until Chuck heard something in my unconscious humming that I didn't even know was there." The relationship between Chuck Berry and Tommy Williams continued throughout the 1970s. Chuck would often recommend Tommy to other artists, and whenever Chuck was recording in London, he made sure Tommy was involved in the production process. Tommy's career reached its peak in the late 1970s, when he produced an album that won multiple Grammy Awards and established him as one of the premier producers in popular music. The album featured complex vocal arrangements and sophisticated harmonic structures that became his signature sound. But Tommy's success extended beyond just his own career. He became known for his ability to discover and develop other hidden talents, particularly among technical workers in the music industry. Sound engineers, session musicians, and studio assistants who showed musical potential often found themselves encouraged and mentored by Tommy, who understood firsthand how life-changing such recognition could be. In 1982, Tommy established a scholarship program for young people from working-class backgrounds who wanted to pursue careers in music but lacked the financial resources for formal training. The program, funded by Tommy's production royalties, provided both technical training and artistic development for students who might otherwise never have had the opportunity to develop their musical abilities. Chuck Berry attended the scholarship program's first graduation ceremony, and in his speech, he reflected on the day he first heard Tommy humming harmonies at Abbey Road Studios. "I've had a lot of satisfying moments in my career," Chuck said, "but few have been as rewarding as hearing Tommy's voice for the first time and knowing that something special was about to happen." Tommy's success isn't just his own achievement. It's proof that talent exists everywhere, in people we might never notice, doing jobs we might never think twice about. The story of Tommy Williams became legendary in music production circles, inspiring countless sound engineers and studio technicians who harbored secret musical ambitions. It proved that the music industry's most valuable contributions sometimes came from unexpected sources, and that success could begin with something as simple as unconsciously humming along during a sound check. Tommy continued producing successful albums throughout the 1980s and 1990s, working with both established superstars and emerging artists. His production style, characterized by sophisticated harmony arrangements and meticulous attention to vocal detail, influenced a generation of producers and continues to be studied in music schools today. In 2005, when Tommy Williams was inducted into the Music Producers Hall of Fame, Chuck Berry was chosen to present the award. In his presentation speech, Chuck returned to that September day at Abbey Road Studios in 1967. "Sometimes the most important moments in music happen when we're not trying to make music," Chuck said. Tommy wasn't trying to be discovered that day. He was just doing his job, lost in the music, letting his natural instincts guide him. That's when the magic happens. When talent meets opportunity, and someone is wise enough to recognize what they're seeing. Today, The story of Chuck Berry's discovery of Tommy Williams serves as inspiration for anyone working behind the scenes in the music industry. It reminds sound engineers, studio technicians, and other music industry professionals that their talents might extend beyond their current roles, and that sometimes all it takes is one person with vision to recognize and nurture hidden potential. The lesson extends beyond the music industry to any field where talented people might be overlooked because of their position or background. Tommy Williams' transformation from anonymous sound engineer to acclaimed producer demonstrates that talent doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it needs to be discovered, encouraged, and developed by those with the experience and wisdom to recognize it. Chuck Berry's willingness to stop a recording session and pay attention to an accidental harmony line changed two lives. His own recordings were enhanced by Tommy's contributions, and Tommy's entire career trajectory was transformed by Chuck's recognition and encouragement. The day Chuck Berry heard his sound engineer humming perfect harmonies proved that some of the music industry's greatest discoveries happen not through auditions or talent searches, but through the simple act of paying attention to the people around us and recognizing that extraordinary talent can emerge from the most ordinary moments. If this incredible story of hidden talent and life-changing recognition moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with anyone working behind the scenes who dreams of something more, and with anyone who has the power to recognize and encourage hidden talent in others. Have you ever discovered or been discovered in an unexpected moment? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing stories about the moments that changed music history forever.